Hello and welcome. In this tutorial, we will be training a model to learn to recognize digits in images. We are going to obtain these images from a dataset called MINST, M-N-I-S-T, and this is the data that we pre-processed in data.js file. There's something I have noted before we can proceed. We are not accessing this data correctly. We need to get out of components and then go to source so that we can have this data.js. So what we need to do, we need to put // then data.js, which is this .js, and then save. So you just need to add one more dot here. We just copied and pasted the way we got it from TensorflowJs website. So the best place to do this function that we are going to do next is in created, so that when our browser loads, this will be executed automatically without us having to click on any button. And for us to achieve this, we are going to put this inside a function, and this function will be asynchronous function. We first need to find out whether data.js script is able to process the data as we would expect it to. So to do this, I'm going to just highlight the steps that you're going to take. The first one is we are going to create a container in the Visor. I'm going to show you what Visor is after some time, but not now. And then after we create the container, we are going to get the examples of some of the digits that we will be working with. Then after that, we are going to create a canvas element to render each example. What I mean by each example is the number of digits that we are going to display on the container in the Visor, and they are going to be rendered on a canvas. So the next thing after that, of course, is to this is going to be inside this process. So to make it a bit neat, to show that it's going to be done inside here, is that we are going to reshape the image that we get from the data.js or from the MINST database. It's going to be one big image which is prepared in form of a sprite file. We are going to reshape the images that we get to several images of 28 by 28 pixels for them to be rendered on the canvas. Then we are going to run the process so that we can see how everything works. So let's start by creating a container in the Visor. We are going to call this container surface. Const surface equals it's going to be equals to tf Visor dot Visor itself, then dot, then surface, of course surface. Then after that, we are going to get the labels. The first label is we are supposed to put them in curly braces. So the first one is always name, and it's inside the quotation marks. So we call this input data examples. Then we are going to have another one we're going to call tab, also inside this, and we are going to call it input data. Then we can close this function. We can save for it format. We need to go to the next thing, which is getting examples. And to get example, you just constantiate examples equals So we are getting data from next test batch, and we are getting in batches of 20. So we are also going to get const number examples equals examples. Then in this example, pixels shape. So we start by getting only the first batch. Then from here we are going to create the canvas element, and because we are getting a lot of numbers, we are going to use a for loop. So for, then we are going to let I equals 0, so we start at 0. So if I is less than number examples, then I plus plus. So you add 1, and then we can close this. Const image tensor, and the image tensors will be TensorflowJs. Let's create a 28 by 28 pixels. So we are going to return each image. So return examples dot pixels. We are going to slice, because you have one big image. We slice it, so we are getting an I, and we want to start with 0, then 1. So the first image from examples dot that pixel dot shape, which is 28 by 28 pixels, and we only want to get one image, so we are not getting more than one. And then we need to reshape this shape 28 by 28 by 1, still inside the for loop. After we return these examples, we need to put this data in our canvas. So const canvas equals document dot create element. We create element, and this element is the canvas. So after we have created the element, we are going to set the canvas dot width to 28. Remember, 28 pixels. So then canvas dot height equals 28 pixels again. Canvas style, we format it a little bit. We're just going to give a margin of 4 pixels. And from there we are going to await for this to happen. So await TensorFlow dot browser. So we are waiting for this to appear in the browser, and we are going to convert to pixels, this to pixels, and we are getting the image tensor on top of the canvas. So at this point we have displayed our image. Then we are going to do surface draw area. So we draw area dot append child, because it's a child of canvas. Full stop, and let's save. So finally we are going to dispose image tensor dot dispose. Whatever you have been doing, because of this await, we need to put this into a function. So it's an async function, and we are going to call it show examples then it's going to take data. So we need to get the data, so it's going to take data in. Let me put this at the end. After disposing the image tensor and coming out of for loop, we need to create an async function. Async, we're going just to call it run. This gets the data and sends it to that function that we are calling show example. So const data is new MINST data. So we're going to get data from the MINST database, and then of course we are going to load the data. So we await for the data to load. Data dot load. So we wait for the data to load. After the data has loaded, so we await show examples, and we are going to send this data to show examples like that. But this cannot happen automatically. It has to be run. Method has to be run at some point. So up to there we are good. The only thing we need to do now is to test whether, let's see whether we are getting data in the right way. Here we are getting the data, so it's going to work. And you see MINST data, then we get it here, we load the data, then we send the data to show examples here, then we work with it until we're able to get the images. So let's see whether what we have done is working. So to test this, we go to terminal, new terminal, and inside this folder we do npm run serve. So we are running the server, enter. It's going to take a few minutes, or let's say a minute also, to run the server. So I'm going to pause and come back when it has already run the server. This was successful. So let's see whether we have done the right thing and whether we'll be able to load example digits. So it's loading, but it didn't give us any. So everything is working, but it didn't give us any of the examples data. Let's refresh and see whether this is going to work. That means there's a problem somewhere. So to check where the problem is, we're going to right click, then inspect element, and we go to console, see which errors that we are getting, and we are getting this error here. Input.shape 0 then 20 is where there is an error. Let's see where we might have gone wrong. I have seen where the error is. So we need to put a 1 here and a comma and then save. If you go back to the web page, we can now see the example digits that our application has generated, and this is what we were trying to achieve in this particular session.